Senator Portman, responding to your regards to keep in touch, I'd like to do just that. While your previous correspondence felt very impersonal and read much like your press release defending your decision to accept Betsy DeVos as our Secretary of Education, I'm willing to overlook this matter as, I am hopeful, many of my fellow Americans took the time to express similar opinions. However, I'm confident that you'll hear the words of a worried participant of our democracy in regards to the fate of our public library systems, as there are deep concerns towards Trump's national budget. Senator Portman, I am truly indebted to our public library system. In so many ways, I hardly know where to begin other than my first experiences. Many of my earliest memories surround attending programs and events from my local branches. Whether it was making it in for story time with arts and crafts, or browsing the collection with my grandfather, I must have visited the library at least 3 times a week. Beyond providing my parents the excuse not to read the same story each night, my trips to the public library taught me, at a very young age, the fundamentals of sharing and participating in my community, as well as the responsibility of returning borrowed materials on a deadline. These are important life skills being developed that prepare children for the real world. I cannot begin to describe the pride that I felt when I'd climb the stool to the book drop and slide my return materials down the chute, only to wander back into the stacks and repeat the process again. Looking now at fellow patrons with children, I understand the annoyance of waiting for a child to place each book individually through the return box, but I must acknowledge how demonstrating and involving young minds in the communal experience of library services teaches leadership. That responsibility behind that first library card carried a mighty weight, which happens to be a day I remember quite vividly. Senator Portman, I didn't learn to officially read until the 1st grade. This didn't slow my trips to the library, but it was something that didn't come to me naturally. Consequently, it made me unmotivated to really strive for mastery. Having just moved through a few school districts, I was tested multiple times for dyslexia at the insistence of my instructors. Each time, my results clearly confirmed that I was not dyslexic. However, it never satisfied the administration. Because of this, I was often made to feel stupid amongst my peers. Did you have a favorite book growing up, Senator? As long as I can remember, I've been enthralled by the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. By the time that I was a kid, though, the strip had long been out of print. I used to go to my local library and head straight for them. I knew nothing of cataloging, and I could hardly read, but I knew where they were kept. They were too expensive for my parents to buy, so I'd cycle through the anthologies one at a time and demand my parents read them to me instead of a bedtime story. It was here that I found that motivation to become literate, to challenge myself to learn more complicated words, and better understand elements of irony. I can't recall a single time in grade school when I didn't have something to read in my book bag, and because of my local library, I had the opportunity to always have something new. Senator, I had a hard time fitting in high school. Struggling with my weight, depression, and being a faceless individual in a large school district, I didn't have many friends and was on the fringe of falling into a bad crowd. During these darker times, after I get home from school, I knew I would always be welcomed at my local library. I spent so much time among the stacks teaching myself whatever sounded mildly interesting. I learned about nutrition and how to cook in accordance, as well as how to keep in better shape and exercise effectively. I taught myself how to draw, how to effectively weigh ethical decisions, and express myself in the written word, things I never had the opportunity to learn in schools. These opportunities prepared me for higher education, encouraged me to challenge myself above the curriculum high school provided, and pursue knowledge in fields I previously didn't understand. Without my local library and access to their impressive catalog, I can't imagine where I'd be right now. I know for certain I wouldn't be graduating from the University of Cincinnati. All the skills I'd be without, much of the inspiration that drew me to write and perform, but in addition, the countless hours I spent in the library. I would have likely roamed the streets looking for trouble otherwise, which I can say for certain I would have inevitably found in Dayton. Senator Portman, when I was growing up, my biological father suffered from a midlife crisis, which had him leave the workforce. Having been the earner of the family, it left us in quite a spot of trouble. It was our local Ohio library branch that opened up as an opportunity of employment for my mom and helped her keep food on the table. This switch was an uncomfortable transition for my family, but it helped keep us together. The library provided my mom with a flourishing career as a librarian. I remember visiting her when she worked the circulation desk and seeing the purpose and joy it brings her to provide and share information to anyone in her community. No discrimination. She is proud to serve as a source of education, free and available to all Americans willing to pursue. Senator Portman, as I'm sure you know, public libraries are more than a few stacks of books these days. Providing access to computers and other forms of technology is an ever-expanding role in their services. Offering training and programs to educate the community and keeping the public up to date only scratches the surface on what libraries have to offer their neighborhoods. Access to no-fee internet service, especially in rural communities, has drastically improved our communication. It has provided disadvantaged individuals the opportunity to get connected and check email, search for employment, not to mention complete homework assignments and improve study habits. In our competitive age, Senator, one cannot be expected to complete a college degree, let alone high school, without the use of the internet. Because of this, communities that have few to no internet connections are dependent on these services to be fulfilled by their local libraries. Without them, how are they expected to remain relevant in our technological world? The public library serves more than that, though. Researching sites like lynda.com, OhioLink, and EBSCOhost are fundamental tools and resources for the everyday college student. I can tell you firsthand. These sites require expensive subscriptions, however, making them unaffordable to the average individual. Library resource centers are dependent on grants like the Library Service and Technology Act to provide these kinds of services and promote an educated populace, just like the Innovative Approaches to Literacy grant attempts to engage students across the nation in reading. We need these services to provide each citizen with an opportunity to an education. Senator Portman, as a concerned Ohio college student, I ask that you continue to support our nation's libraries and guarantee their funding. Cutting anything from the library budget will hinder their ability to provide these essential resources. It will harm communities, and it will slow the cultivation of raising healthy young minds. My story is not alone, and my heart goes out to all of those who depend on our public libraries. Our library system has inspired and educated millions upon millions of Americans, where many would otherwise be without options. Whether seniors learning how to access email, or an underprivileged student attempting to earn an education, or even the toddler that shows twice a week for story time, we all prosper from our public libraries, Senator. Trump may dictate otherwise, but libraries are something most of us are proud of. Please represent us on this matter. Sincerely, Teej.